want you to imagine this. You're a crime scene technician in 1993. You step into a dim, suffocating apartment. The carpet squelches under your feet. Blood is on the walls. It's on the ceiling fan, even pooled in the corners of the room like dark water. And then you see it. Single, barefoot footprint in blood dragged across the floor. It's not the victims, it's the killers. But you can't do a damn thing with it. Yet. This is the story of Jeanie Childs, and how a single, bloody footprint whispered the truth, even when the world stopped listening. Her name was Jeanie Marie Childs, just 35 years old. She lived alone in a small Minneapolis apartment in the Powderhorn neighborhood. A woman with dreams still blooming, working temp jobs, staying close to her mother, trying to rebuild after a divorce. She wasn't perfect, but she was kind, soft-spoken, the kind of woman who remembered birthdays and brought extra napkins for people who never asked. But on June 13th, 1993, something evil entered her apartment. That night, neighbors heard loud music and a woman's screams. No one called the police. When building maintenance arrived the next morning for a plumbing issue, they found Jeanie's apartment door slightly ajar. What they discovered inside was a slaughterhouse. Blood had been sprayed across the floor and walls. There were signs of a prolonged struggle. Furniture overturned, items smashed. And in the center of the room, Jeanie's body brutally stabbed, left exposed and violated. The killer had taken his time. Police tried to make sense of the scene. There were no signs of forced entry. That meant Jeanie likely knew her killer or had trusted him enough to open the door. They found a partial palm print and a bare footprint in blood. But it was 1993. There was no system for DNA testing bloody footprints, no national database. No advanced forensics. Just paper reports, gut instinct, and cold leads. And as quickly as it had erupted, the case fell silent. Years passed, then decades. Jeanie's mother never stopped waiting. Every birthday, she left flowers in silence. Every Christmas, she lit a candle near Jeanie's photo. The police would send her yearly updates, saying nothing had changed. But someone knew. Someone had killed Jeanie and gotten away with it, and lived free for over 2 decades. Then, in 2018, a wave of new forensic funding allowed the Minneapolis Cold Case Unit to reopen old files. They started with unsolved homicides that had preserved DNA evidence. One case stood out. Jeanie's. The technician reviewing her file stopped when they saw the words, "Single barefoot print in blood, belongs to unknown male." The technician paused. Technology had changed since 1993. Now we had STR-DNA profiling, touch DNA recovery, and access to familial databases. Even degraded samples had a shot. The team submitted the sample from the bloody footprint. Weeks passed then. A hit. A partial DNA match through a genealogy database. The name that came back, Jerry Michael Westrom. To the world, Westrom was a successful businessman, lived in Isanti County, Minnesota. Ran a home services company. Married, 2 kids. Church on Sundays. Clean record. But investigators dug deeper, found something chilling. Back in the early 1990s, Westrom had lived briefly in Minneapolis, in the exact neighborhood Jeanie was murdered. More disturbingly, police had previously questioned him in another sex-related incident in 2016, but never pressed charges. Detectives knew they couldn't approach him directly. They needed confirmation, something current, so they followed him. One cold February evening in 2019, Westrom attended a youth hockey game. He bought a hot dog, wiped his mouth, tossed the napkin in the trash. When he left, detectives pounced. They grabbed the napkin. It was soaked with his saliva. The DNA was tested. It was a perfect match to the DNA found in Jeanie Childs' bloody apartment. The footprint, the semen, the ghost, from 1993, had a name. Jerry Westrom was arrested on February 13, 2019. He denied everything, said he'd never met Jeanie, claimed he didn't even know where Powderhorn was. But in court, the evidence began to bury him. Crime scene photos were presented side by side with forensic maps. The blood-soaked trail told a story. It wasn't just the semen that matched Westrom. It was the size and shape of the footprint, the angle of the stride, the direction toward the door. Everything aligned. But the most damning moment, a forensic expert testified, that Westrom's DNA was found inside Jeannie's body, that the amount and condition of the sample showed it was deposited shortly before death. That wasn't just presence, that was violence. But here's where the ethical storm begins. The defense claimed the DNA didn't prove murder, only sex. They argued that the two might have had a consensual encounter, and that someone else killed her later. The footprint could have been misinterpreted. That the perfect father image wasn't a mask. But the truth, for hours, jurors debated. Was it right to convict a man based on DNA from 26 years ago? Can a footprint sentence a man to die in prison? Is justice still justice when it comes so late? On August 25, 2022, the jury returned, guilty of first-degree and second-degree murder. Westrom was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Jeanie Childs' mother didn't cry. She didn't cheer. She simply said, "Now I can stop wondering." Let this story be a reminder. Sometimes, killers walk among us for years, decades, smiling, coaching, driving carpool. Sometimes all it takes is a footprint, soaked in blood, to haunt them forever.